Hey friends, Ash here with Gents. Today I've got a fragrance review from a fragrance house that was started by a YouTuber. The fragrance house is Centauri Perfumes, and the fragrance is this one, Gaea. Centauri Perfumes was started by Peter from the channel Fragranceview'S. If you're unaware of that channel, I'll leave a link in the description. Peter has always concentrated more on niche and indie fragrances. That's more his jam. And in case anybody is wondering, this was not sent to me for review. I paid full retail for this, including shipping, because it was £25 to have this shipped to me from the United Kingdom, which is where Peter's from. Just want to let you guys know that this is in no way, shape, or form sponsored. I purchased this completely out of my own pocket. In this video, I'm going to go over this fragrance, let you know what I think about it, break it down, and let you know whether it's something that I think you should check out or not. We'll also take a look at the presentation. And I'll run down really quickly the whole thought process that Peter has behind this fragrance line. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's jump into this. First up, let's take a look at the presentation, get that out of the way, and then I'll start breaking down this fragrance. First up, a close-up of the front of the box. You've got the name of the house here. There's nothing on the top, the side, or the bottom. On the back of the box, you have a sticker with the name of the fragrance and the ingredients. It does have a pull tab right here. Give that a pull, and the fragrance sits down in there. Also, on the inside of these boxes, there's this little bitty card, and it has a picture of the fragrance, a quick description about the fragrance, what inspired it, and then the notes on the back. So here's a close-up look of that, and then the back of the card with the notes. And here is a close-up look of the bottle. This has a nice copper-looking plaque on the front. The cap is very heavy. This is a metal cap, and then there's nothing on the back. On the bottom, you have a sticker, which has your batch code. This is the first batch of this fragrance, so the batch code is G1CP. Again, cap is nice, it's heavy, and the atomizer on this sprays out a pretty concentrated stream. I'll go ahead and waste a spray on my hand for you here. There we go. There's nice attention to detail on the cap here, which is pretty obvious taking a look at it. It says Centauri right across the front of it. In case you missed that before, it's right here. And that's one thing that I do appreciate with this fragrance, is that even though Peter is launching this by himself, he has gone and made a presentation, had a bottle made and caps made that are specific to his fragrance, or his fragrance brand, I should say. For those of you that are unaware, Peter took his own money and invested it into this company. He didn't have a Kickstarter, he didn't ask for anybody to invest so that he could do this. He just did it all on his own. And he is also the perfumer. So basically everything here is what he has put his time and money into. He basically put his money where his mouth is, you could say. And the way that Peter has approached this is basically past, present, and future, and each one of his fragrances is going to fit into one of those motifs. So in past, those are the bottles that are going to be red, I believe, and these are present, the ones that are white, and then the future bottles are going to be blue. And the fragrances that are going to be released with that theming of being in the past are going to be centered more on natural ingredients. The ones that are present are using both synthetic and naturals. And then the future bottles are going to be concentrating on synthetics. So that's the idea here with Centauri Perfumes. Peter, if you watch this and I got that wrong, just leave a comment and correct me. But that's how I understand it to be at this moment in time. And then the price is going to depend on how much the ingredients cost Peter. So this one, Gaea, is actually a little bit more affordable than Dendera, which is the other release that is currently out. And then I believe in March of this year, Proxima is the next fragrance that Peter's going to release, and that one is one of the fragrances based on the future. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and break this fragrance down a little bit. This one opens up very, very, very slightly earthy, not too much in the opening, but more so green. It is quite green in the opening. The green leaves accord, you pick that up right away. There's also wormwood that I pick up right away in the opening. It gives kind of a bitter, herbal feeling to the greenness off the top. Wormwood is used in flavoring of absinthe, so a lot of times in other fragrances you'll see absinthe as a note, and that is essentially wormwood. And one thing that I pick up from this fragrance especially well early on, and honestly for the entirety of the life of the fragrance, is honey. The honey note in here is very prominent, but especially so in the air. I'm gonna talk more about the performance on this fragrance as the video goes on, but I'll tell you, it's a beast. It really is. And it projects very well into the air off my skin. But the honey note seems to project further than the other notes. At least that's the way that I perceive it. So when I'm wearing this, when I catch a whiff of it, it's the honey that I get the most of. When I smell it up close, I'll get more of the other notes in there with the honey all mixing together. But like, let's say I'm walking around throughout the day and I pick up whiffs of it, the honey is the first thing that hits my nose almost every single time. And in the opening, it's not like a dark honey or a really dense honey. It's more like just a nice, sweet honey. It almost reminds me of like little packets of honey that you might get, or like honey that you might get out of a squeezy bottle or something. That really sweet honey comes across like that. So close up, you do get the honey. It mixes in with the other notes that are going on in the fragrance, but in the air, it's like the honey is here, much more prominent, and the other notes underneath it. In the opening, there's also a touch of apple that I get that adds a little bit of fruity sweetness that works in pretty well with the honey. And that apple stays through the opening and partially into the mid, then starts to fade away. After 10, 15 minutes or so, the bitterness from the wormwood, that dissipates. So that bitter herbal feeling, that is not something that's really super prominent considering how long this fragrance stays off my skin. Then you get this little floral mix that starts to work in the mid of the fragrance. There's tuberose, rose, and lavender in this fragrance. I pick up more tuberose than I do rose or lavender. That being said, the florals are soft. They're not overwhelming. They work more like a nuance. And again, that honey and the kind of green feeling that I get in the opening, that stays pretty prominent through the mid as well. I will say that in the mid, the flowers give a slight powder, like a little touch of powder. At least that's how it comes off to me. Again, not something that I would consider overwhelming, just a bit of a nuance. There is also orris in the mid that gives a scent like tea, like a tea-like scent. But again, and I keep harping on this, it does not come across as prominently as the honey or the green notes do. Like, those to me are what I remember from this fragrance, and they stay the most prominent features of the fragrance for hours off my skin. In the dry down, which takes a long time to get to, ambergris starts to come out. It gives this warm, musky, almost skin scent kind of vibe to Gaea. That works in as the honey finally starts to kind of die down. The honey in the dry down, and again, I'm talking hours in, becomes more of a deeper honey at that point, like a slightly darker honey. The sweetness is still there. It's just not as sweet as in the opening in the mid. And in that dry down, you have this subtle green, slightly earthy base that kind of lays there. And then you have the ambergris and that darker honey kind of working in together on top of that. The longevity here is fantastic. 12 plus hours easily. I mean, that's on the low end. If I say 12 hours, that's on the low end. This is more like something that you're gonna have to scrub off if you don't want it on your skin anymore. Off my skin, it lasts and lasts and lasts and lasts. Projects really solidly for the first couple of hours. Even into the dry down, it still projects well. It's just not as strong as it is in the first couple hours, but I mean, realistically, pretty much every fragrance is like that. It's a beast. It's a beast of a fragrance. It's one that you don't want to go super heavy on because it could get overwhelming and people may not like it if you spray on a bunch of sprays. With this one, for me, 2 sprays and I'm good to go. And it's more of a fall and springtime fragrance. It's not something I'd want to wear in really high heat. Probably not something I'd want to wear in extreme cold either. It is sweet. It does have that honey. It has that green kind of backbone to it. It doesn't have that richness that I would typically associate with really cold weather. That's why I say probably not a winter fragrance for me. I know a lot of times honeyed type fragrances will be wintertime scents, but the backing here is not your more typical amber or tobacco or leather or something like that, at least as far as cold weather fragrances go. And with how much this projects and how cloying it could potentially get, that's why I say no-go for summer for me. And this is more of a daytime fragrance than it is a nighttime fragrance, at least in my opinion. It has this little bit of almost joyfulness to it, the way that the honey comes across, and that's why it makes me think more daytime wear. Obviously though, if you like it, wear it whenever you want, whenever it makes you happy. This is a unisex fragrance. Some people are going to find it a little more feminine, most likely, and that is due, again, to the sweetness and the honey, the way that it comes across with a little bit of florals that are in there. I do find it wearable for myself though. It has the potential for some people to think that it's a little more feminine than masculine. For me, I think it sits right in the middle of unisex. And for me, my favorite part of the fragrance, and I've alluded to this a little bit, is smelling it in the air. Smelling it up close, it smells good, but when I catch whiffs of it, and it's based more around that honey, when I do catch those whiffs, I love it. I love the way it smells. I think it's really nice. And that is why I bought the bottle. I got a sample of this in the mail, and I think 2 or 3 days after I got that sample, I went ahead and picked up the bottle because I love the way it comes across. I love the way it smells. All that being said, I don't think that this is going to be super wearable on a day-to-day basis for most people out there. That being said, if you're buying niche and indie fragrances, you probably don't care. The quality here is very high. The fragrance is very, very good. It smells great. It has beast performance. The presentation, in my opinion, is very nice. I know some people may not gravitate toward it, but I think that it's a really, really good looking bottle and it fits in nicely in my collection. So there we go, a quick breakdown of Centauri Perfumes Gaea, again by Peter of Fragranceview'S. I had actually heard for a very long time, years actually, that Peter was a talented perfumer and yet had never smelled anything that he had done until now. And it was worth the wait. This is very nice. This is not at all out of place among some of the more heavy hitter indie fragrances that I own. So if anybody out there is going to hate because he's a YouTuber that made fragrances, I mean, I don't get it. I don't get any potential criticism there. Kerosene, a lot of you out there are aware, but Kerosene Fragrances, he had a YouTube channel in the past, years ago. When he started Kerosene, he quit YouTube and now makes fragrances, obviously, as his profession. Nobody really takes shots at him, and it may be because he quit YouTube when he started up the fragrance brand, I'm not sure, but yeah, this is quality that's right there with most of the high-end indie fragrances out there, the fragrance brand, so very impressive. And I'm a little bit jealous. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for me. If you've smelled this fragrance, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I'll leave a link to the Centauri Perfumes website as well. As always, thanks so much for watching. Thanks for all your support. I'll see you guys again tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.